Hello, Internet. This is Rotten Potatoes, where we talk about the greatest film scores of all time.
Look at this photograph.
It takes so much to create.
How much time did that take and effort did that take?
What, to think of it?
Mm-hmm.
Who the f starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
I'm Dr. Paul,
I'm Diet Dr. Paul.
and this is Rotten Potatoes, where we talk about film the way you talk about film. Our goal is always to turn you on to something new, and we're talking about a really interesting topic. Why is film music, or is film music, something that's even relevant for folks today?
Remember, there are no stupid questions, just stupid people.
Relevant, I don't know that it's relevant, but I think it is. Sound in movies is supremely important.
Well,
Supremely important.
sound true, but what about music specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a positive, but can also be a detriment to a movie as well. You complain all the time, I don't want to hear top 40 rock songs for the duration of the 90s. That was a complaint. Oh, another top 40s rock song. Which one's going to come out with the lunchbox this time?
Yeah, but that's true. There is a place, though, for sort of source music and songs as opposed to film scores. Nobody does source music better than Scorsese. You know, when he has a song,
Contrasting source music.
oh, it's just Quentin Tarantino is another one that's able to do that. I think sometimes, though, it's more of a marketing tool. When I listen to a film score, it's like it's important, and you want it to be part of the film experience, but you don't want it to be so important that it pulls you out of the movie because you're paying too much attention. It's that sweet spot where it's there, and it supports the message and the emotional content of the movie, but it's not like just constantly smacking you in the face.
I think sometimes for me, it's not necessarily about that like main theme, which is a lot of the times I think what's focused upon. I think sometimes it's sort of like the other aspects of the movie, just the sounds, the intermittent melodies that you have that don't really have really have a melody, but they're just like sounds, ambient sounds. And I think some movies do that really well. And I like a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. I think the more you sort of, as I understand film music, is that like a composer will approach it where like a specific character, Darth Vader, has a theme, and you don't pay attention to it, but every time you hear that, or something like Jaws, every time you hear the cello, it's like you're not attending to it, but all of a sudden you start feeling that anxiety. It's how the music psychologically, it really is a sort of under the perceptual threshold. It gives that tension to a scene, but as soon as you start paying attention to it, that's when it's like, okay. Now.
Sometimes it can be an indicator too. When we were talking about on the Game of Thrones or the House of the Dragon podcast, Chris was referring to at the beginning of the episode one of the themes for one of the families from Game of Thrones. I didn't see it at all, but then I thought about it. I was like, that made a lot of sense that you would catch that. So it's a lot of little things too that it can add to your viewing experience just beyond the music itself.
And you're referring to Chris, who is he's like your favorite screen host right now. No, wait, who's the other favorite screen host that you have?
Probably number one or number two. I can't remember.
Who does number 2 work for?
That's right, buddy. You show that turd who's boss.
There's so many.
Tears of a Clown. I want to know because he doesn't know a thing that I know or what I'm going to say, and I don't know what he's going to say. And sometimes we have overlap. Of the 7, because that's essentially it. We're going to start with our top 7. We're going to start from 7 and go up.
Which we haven't done a 7 in quite some time.
How much overlap? How many of your 7 do you think I have on my list?
I think that there's potential for quite a bit of overlap, but I don't think there will be. I think there may be 1 or 2.
I think what we'll do is we will overlap for composer. Because what I decide, when I find a score that I really like, chances are the person who composed that has 3, 4, maybe just one other really good, strong score. I did not want to have 7 scores all by the same composer, and so we might both choose a Morricone, but you might pick The Mission, and I might pick Good, Bad, and Ugly kind of thing.
Well, before I was going to get right into honorable mention, before we get an honorable mention, there was something that we were going to also discuss
And
that kind of reminded me of this to pick this for a 7, which is something that we experienced in the flesh.
we did, and I'm going to try not to cry at this because this guy right here purchased tickets for us to attend the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra's Jaws concert, and
Jaws in ice on ice. No.
It really is. I guess they do this all over the country, not the Charlotte Symphony, but it's where you have the film and you have a live orchestra that does it, and it was amazing.
It was pretty darn awesome.
You
paid attention to a lot of the music that you wouldn't normally pay attention to.
Well, I thought it was more. It made the movie even more powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the same score, exactly the same score.
To the second they got it on point. I was worried, like, would they be off by a beat? Would they be on by a beat? How do they do it? But you can see he's got a little ticker, and they must practice the crap out of this. I mean,
yeah. Oh, it was really, and I just want to thank you in front of our massive audience. That was one of the nicest things that a son ever did for his father. I mean,
yeah. Well, that lady that screamed in the middle of it ruined it.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
No, it was really nice, and I guess I mean, I understand that your other 2 co-hosts were supposed to go, but they couldn't, and I wound up.
Yeah.
Hey, I like your tie.
Thanks.
We know how to be friends.
Wouldn't be buying tickets for that.
Oh, it really was. So, my message to you, for you sons out there, do something nice for your dad, and dad, do something nice for your sons and your daughters and everything.
Scale of 1 to 10. What'd you give it?
A 10.
A 10. I'd give it a 10 as well.
Oh, it was perfect.
And I don't hand out 10s like that. I don't.
Oh, and the seats were like, I mean,
There really wasn't a bad seat in the house. I looked at the map online when I was buying the tickets, and it was a little overwhelming, to be honest, because it made it seem like there was a giant auditorium, and there wasn't a bad seat in the house.
it was perfect seat. I was on the front row balcony. You could see perfectly the screen. You could see perfectly the orchestra. The sound in the Blumenthal Center was just kind of amazing. We went and had
And we were on the brass side too.
I'm telling you, I still think about it.
Yeah.
I can still taste the alcohol-free IPA that I had. That was
The pre-bagged popcorn, which wasn't bad. I was worried it was going to be real stale. It was actually pretty darn good popcorn
Yeah,
for a bagged popcorn. It was reminiscent enough of movie theater popcorn where it was okay. And I was worried that the screen was going to be small no matter what.
Yeah.
No, it was a good sized screen.
And apparently, they've got several films that their entire series.
Beetlejuice, just a few others. That
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, there were some weird ones. I think like Mean Girls or something.
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. Stuff that I'm not necessarily interested in. And I mean, I've seen Mean Girls, and this. I was telling him it's actually a good movie, but I don't know what the score, how that like plays into that.
I think
I'm not
Mean
sure.
Girls is the off-Broadway show.
There you go. Maybe
And
I'm
so,
just a giant moron.
But no, but and I know. I mean, I will let you when they do Barbie, the film and the score. I will buy tickets for you, man.
Because he wants someone to go with him. But it was worth it. The tickets were pricey. I'll tell you that much. For tickets for something like that, it wasn't like an arm and a leg, but it was worth it. It was worth the money. I would say.
It was one of the nicest things you ever did for me. It really was, man.
He's such a sappy.
You just can't take a compliment.
I
to
can't.
save your
I don't
life.
like taking compliments. I really don't. I hate it.
Oh,
Go into our comment section and say bad things about me.
your mother's watching right now.
Yeah. Don't go in there and say bad things about me.
All right. So let's start. You want to start off the 7? Or do you want me to start
Get
off?
to my paper here.
How do you want to do it? This was hard.
It was very hard.
It really
It was very hard. First, let's just go through some honorable mentions here.
yeah,
Because I
okay.
had to. There were some very iconic movies that aren't on my list. And then there was movies that I think we're talking about sound itself. Movies that I love the sound in it, but it was a lot of a diegetic sound that is sort of like, a music movie where there's Obviously, Whiplash is one of them. But he's playing these drums in these jazz orchestra, and it's great music. It's probably some of the best music. If it was just music alone, it'd probably be number one. But it's a little different than film score, so I didn't count it. The Assassination of Jesse James by the Carol Robert Ford. Not the same high points, but a lot of like the melodic stuff that I really, really enjoy. And then the iconic stuff. Back to the Future, Batman, Superman. If it was most iconic, those three would be on there. But there was some that I liked more than those.
It's interesting. You're looking at my notes right here.
I'm not.
Because I had
Promise.
Danny Elfman on there for his work, especially with Batman. I had Alvin Silvestri because of Back to the Future.
Him, Danny Elfman, and John Williams are like the big three for me.
I had Vangelis on there too for Blade Runner and Chariots of Fire.
Okay.
And then
I thought those are good.
it was painful not to include Bernard Herrmann too on this, and that's North by Northwest. He did a lot of Hitchcock stuff. He did the score for Taxi Driver.
Very like classic orchestra from him.
It's really I even as I say it, it's painful that he didn't make my top 7 because of the work that he has done. I have his scores on album and listen to it all the time.
Well, only one of those gentlemen that you just mentioned made my list either.
Yeah,
of my top 7. So
okay, all right. So your number 7.
My number 7, and this is the big outlier on here, but this is the one that I was the first one on my list, and it is The Revenant from 2015. And everything about that movie I love, but it is two gentlemen, Alva Noda and Ryuichi Sakamoto. And I don't know what it is. Again, it's a lot of, I think, outside the main theme is what I really like about it. I love the main theme, don't get me wrong, but it's not a classic main theme. It's very like synth heavy. It doesn't stand out if you watch the film. A lot of people wouldn't notice it, but I really, really, really like it.
If you've watched this show, any of our hundreds episodes, he talks about, he's really, Revenant it just resonates with you.
Mm-hmm. And you want to know a funny story about it? I fell asleep in the movie theater and
Really?
slept the entire way through it.
And including the score.
Yeah. I mean,
But you went back and caught up and watched it on.
I watched it on DVD, and I knew I was gonna like it. I liked what I saw. I was just tired.
And how many times have you seen it?
Oh, all the time.
All right.
All the time.
I don't even.
That bear scene, holy shnikes.
I can't even remember what the score is at all.
It doesn't stick out. If you watch it, it's almost like you have to have a superpower to remember to notice it, because it's such an immersive movie anyway.
Well, you say several times you say movies on here, and it makes me, I want to, I am, by the time this shows up, I am officially retired from my career and going to devote myself fully to Rotten
finally
Potatoes.
learning how to watch movies.
I'm going to be making fries. I'm going to be making mash. I'm going to be making scallops. I'm going to be all over the potato farm kind of stuff. So, but yes, I'm going to go back and watch Revenant. I just think I owe it.
I'm telling you, the bear attack
I know.
scene alone is just so good. And the portrayals in it are amazing.
It was a very harrowing movie. I didn't.
It's a tough movie to get through, man. There's some really like jarring stuff that happens in it.
Yeah. Well, my number 7 is Nino Rota's The Godfather. It
Obviously,
is,
yeah.
It just is, and that's kind of where I start with number 7. It is iconic. It is so into the culture of Italian music, and it just reflects perfectly. It is a brilliant, brilliant score that once you've seen the movie once, if you hear that music outside of that, it comes right back all over you.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's not on my list is because having done a bunch of videos on The Godfather 3 and Scorsese lately, I just think I'd heard it so much, it wasn't as poignant in my mind at that point, so it kind of just was easier for me to pass over, but it's very iconic. You already hear sort of what is that, mandolin, guitar, I don't know what that is, what instrument that is.
Well, it's interesting because you'll have a movie like Rocky. Everybody knows the Rocky theme.
Mm-hmm.
What The Godfather does is there is sort of various themes in it, and they're all equally strong. And so, and most composers, if they can come up with one, if you've got Darth Vader's, one, or Superman's sort of that intro, that's a great, piece of music. But what The Godfather does is there's so many of those throughout the film that are all haunting together. I mean, that's more than one movie's worth of score, actually.
For sure.
But it's good. So.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Yeah, number 7.
That was my number 7.
Number 6.
Yes.
And you just mentioned my man John Williams, so I'll mention him again. And it's Star Wars. It's the most iconic, I think, for me. Themes. And you say that there's Darth Vader. There's the different themes. This is the Peter Rabbit of the movie scores. It's got all these different themes that you can notice, and they all thump, and they're all very iconic. It does sometimes get blend in with like his other stuff a little bit. Him and Danny Elfman. They're very like you can tell who they are. But it's just such a strong score. And yeah, Darth Vader is so iconic. The main theme, when it starts, I mean, goosebumps.
Do you have any of your composers that are listed more than once on your top 7?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I had to pick just one. And would you say, in terms of John Williams, that Star Wars... Well, obviously, since this is number 6, then you have one that's higher, which you would say is his best one he's ever done, ever.
It's potentially his best one. It's his most iconic one. Again, yeah. I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay, yeah, I mean, he is absolutely amazing. And
he's got so many good ones.
Oh, I mean, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's science fiction or whether it's a drama or I mean, operatic. The guy is just amazing. And when we came back from Jaws, I remember saying, how is it he's still alive? I think he's 180 years old. If you go back and you watch Lost in Space, for crying out loud, and I'm not talking about the reboot series, but if you go back in the 60s, my childhood, he did the Lost in Space thing, and his name is Johnny Williams back then. And so clearly, I mean, the guy is really, I keep saying that this is going to be his last score. He has influenced other scores. He's made movie music accessible and important. So, I'm absolutely there with you.
He's been around for flipping forever. He was old in the 70s.
Yeah.
And so that was... So my turn or your turn?
My turn.
Okay, your turn.
My James Horner is my number 6, and it was really hard to narrow down. Okay, so because this is the guy that did Titanic, House of Sand and Fog, which is an amazing thing, Mark of Zorro, Spitfire Grill, Braveheart, Searching for Bobby Fischer, amazing score, Sneakers, Field of Dreams. Any of those could wind up on my list, but I had to pick one, and I picked Glory. It is military, Civil War kind of stuff. So it's got that fife and drum sort of quality that's a part of it. The film is somewhat brutal because it's, battlefield action. And then you have the tension, the melodrama that goes with it. It is absolutely perfect. And what put it on my list is I traveled to Charleston, South Carolina, and had a chance to visit some slave plantations. And this is back when we had iPods, and I was just walking around. That score was on, and it brought me to tears. It really did. Just amazing. The guy, James Horner, is just one of the best that we've ever had.
I saw part of that the other day. It was on TV. The scene where Morgan Freeman slaps Denzel Washington. That's a scene right there. A young Denzel with fire in his eyes. It's a good scene.
Well, wasn't that reenacted on the Oscars?
Oh, yeah. And on that note.
Yeah, all right.
All right, number 5. Correct? Am I right? Am I number 5? All right. And again, this one, it just took me a while, and there should probably be another M. Night Shyamalan movie on here, but I stuck with one, and that would be The Village from James Newton Howard in 2004. I mean, come on now. I did the opening to the M. Night Shyamalan video to that song from The Village. It's just a good song. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's very, very iconic for M. Night Shyamalan. It's sort of quintessential for his movies too. So maybe there's some of that, and maybe the nostalgia does some of it. But that's just such a good score all around. I think it makes the movie better.
I absolutely agree. I saw that movie. Came home, immediately purchased the score. It really, I listen to it all the time. It's haunting, haunting.
It gets a good amount of love online too, which I'm glad, because I was worried that people would pass it over a little bit, but it is just a banger.
Well, what's interesting is you can have a great score, but not a great movie. And vice versa, you have a great movie that doesn't have a great score. I think sometimes when I was growing up, there were much more popular soundtrack albums. And I think what it was is like if you really liked the movie, you'd buy the soundtrack. And I know for me, you put it on when you got home, and it's like, this is just a bunch of music. It's not recapturing the magic of the film, and unless it's a musical, obviously, kind of
It's
stuff.
a little different.
You
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
see that as much now. When you go, of course, they don't really have physical stores with that sell music that much anymore. But it used to be the size of the soundtrack and scores was very, very small compared to jazz or classical.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
whatever.
It'd be sort of like just at the end of the section there.
Yeah. And if you do have people that collect those, it's usually more source music. It's songs, it's rock songs, that kind of thing. So no, great choice. Great
I know.
choice.
That's why I picked it.
My number 5, Thomas Newton's Angels in America. It is, I cannot listen to that without tearing up every time I hear
Every
it.
single one of these movies on this list going to have a story about making you cry, isn't it?
Well, this guy, Road to Perdition, Skyfall, Spectre, Shawshank Redemption, Lost Boys. Again, all of those are absolutely, great. I own, Road to Perdition, which I didn't particularly find that to be that compelling of a film. But
I know
it's a
people that love
great,
that movie.
Great score to that.
Not a big
Lost
fan.
Boys, Shawshank Redemption, one of my favorite films. I don't know that the score was.
I don't have the. The score is good. It's not like.
Did you
right
ever
on
see
the-
Angels in America?
Who's in it?
Al Pacino. It was written but Pulitzer Prize. It's about AIDS.
I think I can remember the cover of the movie.
It started as a Broadway show, and then they did. I think HBO did the series, but it's about the AIDS crisis. And Jeffrey, can't remember the guy who was just nominated for Best Actor the last year. The African American male,
Jeffrey Wright.
Yes, he is brilliant in.
He's one of my favorite
this.
actors.
Yeah, it's a 2-part miniseries on HBO. You really have to. It is some of the best writing ever. It's powerful, and the characters in this thing, they play multiple roles. I could go on and on and on about it, and it is great. But the music for that what Thomas Newton did was just kind of. I listened to it all the time.
That was
Probably listen
one
to
I'm
that
not
more than
familiar
any
with.
score that's on my list.
And I've not seen it.
What are you
I
doing
told
this
him to
summer?
pick 7 movies that I've seen before. What do I do in the
Pee
summer?
Wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah. That was your number
That was not my number 5. Yeah,
All right,
number
my
4.
Number 4. Well, you mentioned James Horner, so I might as well mention him too. And that would be number 4 is going to be Braveheart. It could have been higher on this list because it's so different, and it's the bagpipe themes in it. But there's not it's going to sound kind of stupid, but I work out every day. I try to work out, and sometimes I get really bored just standing there doing nothing. So I'll try to put something on the TV that's not like a movie that I'm going to watch. And sometimes I put like Scottish landscapes up with bagpipe music on, or this soundtrack just to have something on it. I don't know. It just works. And it's just so good. So different.
There are people who believe that that's the greatest film score ever made.
Mhm.
And clearly I had him on mine, and I do like Braveheart. I like Glory better. I think Braveheart's a better film than Glory was, and that's no slight to Glory at
Mhm.
all. But it's I'm actually a little surprised because that I know you like the film, but that stood out to you because it really is considered to be one of the great. So and it's on. There is a number of film score sites online, and it'll have here's the great top 10, top 5, whatever, and it is almost always on people's top 5
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
What is he doing?
yeah.
Playing outlawed tunes on outlawed pipes.
Oh, good job. My number 4, that's where John Williams shows up, and that is Jaws.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
just think, you look at how I feel about Superman and how much I love the score of that and how much I love the film, and E.T., Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, for crying out loud. All of those films would be great without the score. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jaws would not be as a good of a film.
It's a part of
without.
the film's personality.
It is. It absolutely is. And you just cannot separate. I mean, it elevates the film, the score on that, and it's so simple. It's the cello line that plays, but it is more than that. And that's what, when we went to the show, that I realized I really like that score. And I've thought it before about purchasing it, but it's like it's dun 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 dun. Dun. There's so much more than that.
Mhm.
But you're not aware of it so much because it sort of captivates and pulls you into the film. Having that on a stage, man.
It
awesome.
very much is a part of the film's personality, so you just don't notice it.
Yep.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Holy for
Okay.
maybe we'll see if that's on my list later. All right, number 3.
It's your number one.
No, it's number
Okay. Number 3.
Number 3. This could have been higher if I was a little younger, and that is going to be, forgot the name of the guy. It's going to be John Williams again. I had to. Jurassic Park, baby. I watched it the other day and I didn't realize. I was like, wait a minute, this is John Williams and it's on my list. But man, it's there. I don't know, man. It's another just super iconic one. And again, I think it's part of the film, like Jaws. It's very much a part of the film because it goes along with a lot of the scenes that you remember of the film. That opening scene with the brontosauruses, where, you know, they first see the dinosaurs and the music kicks in. I mean, it's just so good.
It's another one of these where you have a variety of themes in it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's more than one great theme that's part of that. And when it comes up, you know, when they first arrive in Jurassic Park, and, you know, and the waterfalls and everything, that music they have, when you first see the dinosaurs the first time, that music, I mean, it really, I
The ending
totally
theme
agree.
when they're leaving the place finally, it's almost sad. That movie was my childhood right there. That movie right there. It reminds me of summertime. It reminds me because we saw it on vacation, I think, whatever. But that movie right there is a
Yeah.
big thumbs up.
Yeah. Again, it was the composer, but I picked Jaws mainly because, and probably because of how important it was, the special time that you and I had
Yeah.
with that.
I didn't worry about how many composers. I just picked movies
Yeah,
and
I
then went
don't
to
know.
it.
Well, good. Well, my number 3, I cheated, which I can do because and it was a tie for my composer, and it's Ennio Morricone. And I love what he's done. And it's to Once Upon a Time in America and Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah.
Folks often gravitate towards the good and the bad and the ugly, and the Fistful of Dollars, and those are, he did Hateful Eight, he did Untouchables. He's sort of like Bernard Herrmann. His career is so long standing, but in the end, what he did for Once Upon a Time in America, and then what he did for Cinema Paradiso, those are emotionally powerful scores, and listen to them all the time.
Yeah, he's not on my list, but I knocked him around a bunch. And I should have mentioned him in my honorable mentions, but this was such a long list that it could have been 1,000 different things.
It was a hard list to come up with.
It really was. And that's why that, having John Williams on there more than one time is like, you know what? I just have to. It is what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I really like he's got a feel to his movies that I really like. Hateful Eight probably wouldn't be my favorite though. So that's one of my favorite movies though.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Yes. Numero dos.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 John Williams on yours.
Yeah. I told you. I didn't hold back. I just picked the movies. I didn't think about who the scores were made by. And then I looked when I was making my list. I was like, you know what? It's true. It's true. And what I had think a couple movies of his in my honorable mentions too. So, but yeah, Jaws. And it probably, I could have put it number 1, but I didn't want to do that since we just saw it and I don't want to be too biased. So, plus my number 1's just the best, bottom line. But it's because it's such a big part of the movie. It's like the third leg of that film. The shark and the water is a third of it. You have the 3 actors as a third of it, and then you have the music as a third of it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. The editing, that what he did, I mean, it is close to being a perfect film kind of stuff.
And it transcends so many genres of film. It's fantasy, it's horror, it's science fiction. It's got comedic elements to it. It's got drama elements to it. I mean, you could throw it in almost every category.
Yeah, I totally agree. Good choice. My number 2, Lawrence of Arabia, Maurice Jarre.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be on there somewhere.
Well, he did Witness, he did Ghosts, and both of those are
I
are
knew
good
this was going
films.
to be on your list.
Well, it is an amazing
It's a
score.
movie you talk about all the time.
Like you talk about The Bear and Revenant.
That's okay. One of those is much cooler than the other.
I will tell you that it is this summer they are doing it's a re-release on the big screen, and
They're doing a bunch of stuff too.
if you've ever seen Lawrence of Arabia, I think we made you watch it when you were
I've
younger.
seen it before.
Yeah, but
I use it when I teach blocking and scenes and like shots and the different shots. I use the scene with what's his face, and they're out in the desert, and the Black Rider comes from the distance
Yes.
to show what
Yes.
like a wide shot is,
yes,
and symbolism in filmmaking. So I use that scene.
oh, it's one of my favorite films.
I
of all
forget the
time.
guy. What's the guy's name?
T.E. Lawrence.
No,
You talk about the actor,
the actor.
Anthony.
No, the guy with the blue eyes, the white guy.
You're
I
Peter
can't-
O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole. I can never think of his
sorry.
name.
As I get
he's
older,
got
I'm
some
losing-
dreamy eyes in that movie. You're just like, goodness gracious.
He does,
It's a pretty filler.
it's a beautiful film. The cinematography. They just don't make movies that scope.
Yeah.
You know, Fateful Eight was the last time I sort of had that 70 millimeter, take your breath away kind of stuff. Just sort of sit and just look.
That's what
just
The Revenant
watch.
is for me right there. That's why I like that movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That was your number 2?
That was my number 2.
My numero uno.
Okay.
Do you know what this is?
I have a feeling we have the same one then.
What? What is yours?
We're
no,
gonna
I
have-
don't want to know. I don't want to know because if you're wrong, then I'll know already.
We're gonna have the Daily Double.
No, I don't think so. It's going to be Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings.
That's mine.
Yours is number 1,
Yep.
Lord of the Rings. That's hysterical. Has that ever happened before?
Our number 1. We've had daily doubles,
But not
before.
number 1.
I don't know. We'd have to go back, and that's what you should do this summer. Go back and watch every single
Yeah, I don't
episode.
have time to do that.
Yes,
But it's the best. It's simply put, that's the greatest filmmaking like ever, like project of all time. It will never be surpassed, and it's the proof of why miniatures, practical effects, it's the dawn of motion capture, and Howard Shore was over there putting bows on things like he was a gangster.
it also is enough music for 3 films, and
Because
3.
it's not, the themes don't change.
Well, there's some variation, and that's sort of how you keep it
Mhm.
fresh each time.
Mhm.
And and I love especially the closing song that they add. I think Enya did one, and then Annie Lennox did one kind of.
They're okay.
Thing. Oh, I think it's almost as if he wrote that. Maybe he did. Maybe he wrote the music that went with
Potentially, who
that.
knows?
But it makes a great movie even greater. And I'm like, yeah, it just doesn't get much better than that.
Ba-da-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Yeah,
We used to play Lord of the Rings music in high school
yeah.
in our cars.
And what's amazing, I think, as we're saying this, is think about it. That's number 1. It's better than things like The Godfather. It's better than Jaws. It's better than Back to the Future. It's better than any
Superman,
Yes.
better than 89's Batman.
It really is. It's not pretentious. And
No.
it's not the kind of thing like you're going to walk out of the theater humming it to yourself. It's just a really great score.
Yeah, if it's you're doing again, this is not the list of the 7 most iconic because I wouldn't put it as the number 1, or maybe it might not even be in the top 10 most iconic because it doesn't have that Superman, it doesn't have that Batman, it doesn't have that Back to the Future, it doesn't have that one overarching theme that you can lean on, but it's everything in it is good in quality.
Yeah. Yeah. You could listen to like The Godfather. You could maybe listen to side 1 of that, or you could listen to side 1 of Back to the Future. You have to listen to the entire. You're not going to get all of the Lord of the Rings unless you listen to the entire thing. So no, it is. I'm kind of amazed that we both, thought that. So
How many did we have that were the same? 2?
we shared composers.
Yeah, but I had John Williams on here
Right.
3 times.
You had Jaws on yours. I had Jaws on mine. You had Lord of the Rings. We differed with James Horner. You didn't have Thomas Newman. You didn't have Ennio Morricone. I didn't even have Bernard Herrmann. I feel so guilty about that.
He's rolling over in his grave.
Him and Alfred Hitchcock. because that was really the where for me at least I started becoming aware of music was Hitchcock.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
what do you think? Okay,
Who's your favorite?
yes, okay, whose list do you resonates with more, mine or Dr. Paul's? Yeah, right. Let us know what you think. As always, we appreciate the time that you spend with us. We appreciate your comments. We listen to everything that you have to say, and like I said earlier, thanks to you for Jaws. Do something nice for your dad. Do something nice for your son. They're worth it.
True. Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
See you
Whatever
at
he said.
See you at the movies.
We'll see you at the movies.
Yeah.
Kill me now. Oh.